Hello again. In this episode we're looking at, do you need a degree for a 3D career? So do you need to go to college or university for a career in the 3D industry? I've also included a time-lapse of an elephant I recently made to try and keep it visually interesting. If you want to see a full commentary with this video, I'll most likely release one shortly. Do remember to look at my website gabbit.co.uk for free courses aimed at complete beginners right through to advanced levels. New content being added regularly. See the link in the description. Also, I'd like to say a big thank you to my 3 patrons, Matar, Rajessica Ran and Andrew. It's really appreciated, and my Patreon link is in the description, so if you'd like to support this channel, you can go there. So I'll start by saying I've got a degree in media and film, and the only time I've had to use it is to get into teaching. My 3D work is all self-taught, in the sense that I didn't go to a college or university, but looked at lots of online tutorials. Every single freelance job I've had, no one has asked to see my qualifications, they just want to see my portfolio. I started teaching IT, then media studies, then games design. I recently went part-time with my teaching so I could pick up more freelance work. I'll also be doing an episode on how to make money with 3D art soon, so if you're interested in how to freelance, then take a look at that. I think it's worth pointing out that I don't earn a great deal of money through freelancing. My main wage is teaching. Although I've not gone after freelance work, it's more come to me. I am still working on my portfolio and other things, so I'm happy to slowly build this side of my career. And I'll pursue this with more vigour in the near future. So I don't think I'm a massively successful 3D artist, but I have had a fair bit of experience with universities, as I've had to visit and research for my students, and I've also got in touch with some old students to find out how they've got on and what their experience of university was like. Now, most of this is from a UK perspective, so some things may differ depending on your location. I'm going to go through the positives and negatives and then summarise my thoughts at the end and decide whether I would go to university if given the chance again. I'll also give some quick tips on what to look out for if you do want to go to a university or college. I'll also briefly discuss apprenticeships. So first I'm going to look at the pros of going to university or college, and all this will be assuming that you've gone to a good quality university or college. So I'll go through what you need to look out for when choosing. Firstly, it goes without saying you need to visit and make sure they're using the most up-to-date software and good quality computers. So ask lots of questions about the software they use, why they use that, and the types of computers they're using. Secondly, I would say that the professors that teach, or the lecturers that teach, need to have industry experience. Again, ask lots of questions, maybe even ask to see their portfolio. It's even better if they're still working in the industry in some way, because they may still be using old techniques rather than the up-to-date techniques, as it does develop very quickly. And last but not least, I would say strong industry links. So even better if you can get a university that has an actual industry link to it where you get work experience. Assuming that your university of choice has all those, let's go through the positives of going to university and gaining a degree. So first of all, you'll be learning with good up-to-date software, which will be industry standard. You'll learn on good quality computers and equipment, and you will learn up-to-date industry techniques. You'll be able to quickly ask questions and find the answers to your problems very quickly. Another crucial aspect will be getting feedback on your work, as it can be really tough to see what the problems are in your own work and get good quality feedback from someone that's experienced or a professional. You will also get a degree certificate, and that may open up other opportunities such as teaching. It can also make it easier to work abroad, but it's not essential for either of those. You'll possibly be taken a bit more seriously, as you will have had 3 years training as opposed to someone that hasn't, but generally it's portfolio based. You'll get to learn with like-minded people and work on projects with like-minded people. This can really give you a boost and encourage you, and when you're working with a team, you're accountable to them as well. You'll have deadlines to meet, which again can be very motivating, and sometimes you really need that to push yourself. And you'll make industry links, and meeting those people in the industry, getting to know them, can really help you and give you a bump up the ladder. Throughout your degree course as well, you'll be working hard on your portfolio. Now, the portfolio is the major thing when getting employed. And from the research I've done, that is the fundamental thing when getting employed, is a good portfolio. Your degree certificate will be useless and wasted without it. And given the things I've said, the portfolio is still the most important thing. So what are the cons to going to university or college? Well, of course there's the cost. That's the big and main issue. In the UK it's not so bad because you can get a loan and you don't have to pay that off until you earn a decent amount of money. But then there is the cost of living and accommodation, which can be quite tough, and you will have to pay quite a lot as a student for student accommodation. You do get taken for a ride a little bit there. So if you do get a loan, you have the added problem of having student debt, and as I said, it's not just paying for the course, but it is paying for your living expenses as well. The other major con I would say is the time it takes. Most universities it will take 3 years, which is quite a long time. Some will try and push you to go onto a master's, and therefore it will take 4, and some will even ask you to go on a foundation course, so a mini 1-year course before taking the degree course. That's fairly rare in 3D, more common in art courses. So it does take a fair bit of time, and the universities are kind of looking to keep you there as long as possible because they make more money out of you. Some of the other disadvantages will come out now that I'm going to talk about being self-taught. So the alternative is to be self-taught, as it's known as, although the phrase is slightly misused because obviously you have to learn from somewhere. So YouTube courses, online courses that you might pay for, books of course, and plenty of practice. Some of these online courses can be a blessing and a curse. I've seen some exceptional paid-for courses from people such as CG Cookie, but I've also heard of some particularly bad ones. I've heard a lot of people say bad things about Udemy, but I have no personal experience of that. And there are some excellent free training resources, which I do have a link to. I'll put a link in the description and a card in the corner. But it can be very tricky to know where to start and what exactly you need to be learning. Now, of course, the major pro of this is the cost. You could then spend that money on software, computers, and courses online. But of course, if you're in the UK, you can't get a loan to pay for those computers. So the money you would have spent, you haven't got access to. So at the end of this time that you've set aside to be self-taught, you won't have a massive debt. Another advantage is you can find small jobs and treat those as if they were university projects. So you still have deadlines and you gain the added experience of working with a client. Having said that, those sort of jobs aren't that easy to find, but they are out there. You could argue another pro is the timing. You can work as hard as you're able. You can of course do that at university, but you have to spend 3 years doing it. Whereas you may be able to get to a position where you feel your portfolio is good enough to get out there before 3 years are up. Another advantage is that you can focus on exactly what you want to focus on. So if there's a certain style that you want to be a specialist in, you can go for it right from the start. Often the first year of university can be trying lots of different techniques out. If you know exactly what you want to go after, then you can just go for it. This could of course be seen as an advantage for university, that you get to try lots of different techniques as well. Now the bad sides to being self-taught is, as I've said, it's very difficult to know exactly where to start. Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. So where do you start? What do you need to learn? You may find it difficult to get student licenses of the software, as it does often require you to prove you're a student, which means it's more likely you'll end up using something like Blender. And there is the minor disadvantage that that's not always used by the industry, and it's less common than other programs. But as I said, it's more about portfolio than it is about software. Another problem with being self-taught is there can be some poor quality tutorials out there which show an unusual workflow or something that's very specific to that person, and it's either very difficult to pick up, or there may be a slightly easier way for you to do that process, and it's obscure and not kind of industry standard. There is the negative aspect of not being able to meet like-minded people. There are of course forums and communities, not quite the same as meeting in person, so there is that to think about. I think probably the biggest problem with being self-taught is that you don't have deadlines necessarily, and the motivational aspect. If you get stuck in a rut or you're finding things difficult, which certainly is going to happen with 3D modeling and artwork, it can be difficult to push past that if there's no specific deadline, and you can easily get distracted or despondent and give up altogether. So I would say they're the major advantages and disadvantages to both. Of course, you may have some in mind. Please put them in the comments if you do. And the big question I often ask myself, would I go to university to study some kind of 3D degree if I had my time again? Well, it certainly does depend a lot on your situation. If you are able to take that time off, which often most students are in that position to do, and maybe get a small part-time job just to get by, perhaps that's one tick for self-taught. But the other big aspect would be the motivation. How motivated are you? Are you able to cope without the constant stress of deadlines and lecturers sort of breathing down your neck for work, and the added pressure that you've paid for this course, so you need to make the most of it? It's actually a very difficult decision. So I've had students who've gone through my course at sixth form, and they've gone on to university, and they certainly have no regrets. They're really pleased with the course they've done. They're just about to go into the workplace and things are looking really positive, and they would all say they'd go again and go to the same place again. I've also had a couple of students who are very good students, very well motivated, and chose not to go off to university. And they've both found really good apprenticeship positions. So they were able to go straight into the workplace and learn whilst they're on the job. And that is the one thing I would strongly recommend over everything, is if you can get some sort of job, you kind of get the best of both worlds, because you've got people you can ask questions and learn from, but you also don't have the burden of the debt. The big downside to this is that there's not that many apprenticeships out there. They are extremely competitive, and you'll have to show real enthusiasm, talent and motivation to get those positions. All apprenticeship courses have some sort of qualification at the end, and many of them are just testing you out to see whether you can handle the work, and they're looking to employ you once you've finished your apprenticeship. So for me, the answer would be, if you can get an apprenticeship, find work in the industry and build yourself up that way. And I think it's fairly equal depending on your personality, university or self-taught. If you need those deadlines, if you need that guidance, then university's for you. If you're extremely motivated and really passionate, you can go down the self-taught route and save yourself a lot of money. I'm really interested in what other people have to say, so do comment and let me know what you think. And do also read the comments so you can see what other people think on the subject.